URA. First item of business is election of chair and vice chair for 2024. Something that needs to be done annually according to Article 5B of our bylaws, which are attached in your packet. So I am looking for nominations for chair to start with.
Chair, may I nominate Sheila Bond for chair?
Second.
I would third it.
Oh.
All in favor?
Anybody else? I will accept the position, but is anybody else interested? Okay, so
You've done a great job.
thank you. So we have a motion and a second. So we'll move on to vice chair then. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion passes. Okay, moving on to nomination of vice chair. I will nominate Joe Kitch.
I'd second that.
Any other Joe, are you interested?
I'll be vice chair.
Anybody else? Any other nominations? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Congratulations.
All right. So,
Thought they were fine campaign speeches.
Next item up for business is citizen comments. Mayor Johnson? Nobody? All right. With no citizen comments, we'll move down to corrections or additions to the agenda.
Yes, Madam Chair, we do not have the financial summary for December, so I would propose moving it and putting it on the February agenda.
Okay, so item C off the active agenda will be moved off to February. And with no other corrections or additions, we'll move on to the active agenda. First item is approval of minutes from December 12th and also approval of invoice from O'Sullivan Law for $1,007.
I will so move approval.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Oh,
Can we discuss first?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so what was the breakdown for the legal services?
The agendas, it was part of the packet, but I believe I have it right here too. And that is on Zoom, so if you had any questions for him, he is present at the meeting here. I just gotta get this mouse to work.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, I can see this. Okay, so here's, yeah.
You
those
got to it
answers what I-
first?
yeah,
Okay.
those answers what I was.
I'm still getting to it.
Okay, I've got it.
Okay,
So it looks like it's for items in December, for the month of December.
yes.
Is there any other questions or discussion?
Well,
Joe?
just a question, and I think it would probably be for Shannon as well as Sheila. How is our relationship going with O'Sullivan?
Oh, fine so far. We had a meeting, and I'll discuss it later with the Maine East Maine revenue allocation area, but he and I and Megan from Elam and Burke got together on the phone and things have been going well. He communicates to me, should I be at this meeting or I think I should. So we're having open communication about those types of things as well.
I think it would be nice if we sometime have a meeting with him where he's here in person, just to
That would be
put a
good.
person with the name and all that.
Dad, did you hear that?
But I don't think it's worth necessarily a special meeting,
Yeah,
special trip for him.
right. Yeah. He gave a thumbs up, so he will make it to a future meeting.
Oh, so is he in this meeting?
He is.
Oh, okay.
He is here by Zoom. Yeah, you just can't tell because I have the screen shared right now.
All right.
Excellent. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes and the invoice to O'Sullivan, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, moving on to unfinished and new business. First item is Maine East Main number 4. Review of legal advice and possible action item. I'll turn it over to Shannon.
Okay, Thad, can you see the Word doc that I just shared on the screen? Okay. So this is just, I put onto notes what the conversation I had with Megan and Thad last month. So if you recall, the direction to staff was to see what the possibilities were if the board so choose to continue a partnership with or to start a partnership actually with the Wallowa River properties in the Maine East Main revenue allocation area. So we stepped through what were possibilities, and I was just going to go through those with you today. Of course, with anything, you can choose the do nothing, which is you're going to keep Maine East Main open through the term of 2029, or close it early, as we have talked about in the past, due to, we don't feel like we're going to move on with any of the specific projects in the plan. We think it's time to close. And so that's a conversation that a few months ago, back in I think June of 2023, we parked it till March. So in March of this year, we were going to revisit it regardless. So if we...
Question, didn't we have to start it before March in order to get it on schedule to close right?
No, it was March. I suggested March so that we had time to get it done by the 4th of July, the 4th Monday in July. Hoping that March would be enough time to do that. Okay, so in order to, if the board did want to pursue a partnership with Wallowa River Properties, then a plan amendment is not recommended. This is a post-2016 plan. That's a terminology used in URAs, because in 2016 there was quite a bit of regulation around urban renewal agencies, is my understanding. And so when they talk about plans, they talk about post and pre-2016. Currently, all of our plans are post-2016, so they fall under the regulations in place today. And because of that, Megan took a look at our plan, Thad took a look at our plan, and the plan is very specific on the projects that are listed in there, and this is not one of them. And so the recommendation is to not amend this plan if you want to pursue this project. Instead, the recommendation is to either close the Maine East Main revenue allocation area, because a piece of property can't be in two. And so you would either close this revenue allocation area, or you would de-annex this property or properties from the Maine East Main revenue allocation area. So if there was a situation where, no, we still want the Maine East Main to continue because there's a viable project in it still, but we also want to pursue this partnership, you would de-annex this property and other properties that might be a part of this project. And so if you were to do that, then either close it, whatever you would decide to do, in order to do a partnership with this piece of property, you would have to create a new revenue allocation area and a subsequent plan. And what's recommended, which we haven't, to my knowledge, I could be wrong, to my knowledge, we have not employed a eligibility study prior to doing a revenue allocation area plan in the past. But you would know the past better than myself, but I don't believe that the Lewiston Urban Renewal Agency has ever commandeered or hired a consultant to do an eligibility study for a plan.
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah, it didn't sound familiar to me either. And so the reason you would do one of those studies is it gives a third-party outside look at the property, at the benefits of the new revenue allocation area. What would it serve? How does it tie into your goals? What are the needs within that property, and what are the opportunities within that property? And so you can see here that I put it would possibly address the housing and utility road infrastructure needs, how they meet the URA's mission and goals. These studies can be done concurrently, so if you chose to go ahead and either de-annex or close the East Main revenue allocation area, you can start on this eligibility study at the same time. Typically, these are about $5,000 to $10,000. They can be paid for in 3 ways, or the most common 3 ways, I guess, is what you would say. URAs can pay for them through other revenue allocation areas. We haven't done that I'm aware of, where we've used monies from one revenue allocation area and used them for another. You can't just do that willy-nilly. You can do it if you've shown that there's a surplus in one of the other revenue allocation areas, meaning that you have a set number of projects and you know that the increment is going to be more. Of course, you would also calculate the interest, and revenue allocation area 1 that got the money lended to would pay the interest back to revenue allocation area 2. As we've done before, city can lend funds for these types of things, or the developer can front the cost for the study. And that happens in other areas around the state. And then what you would do is, what would be recommended is you do a participation agreement with the developer. This is where, there's an agreed upon projects and prices for those projects. The caveat is the URA can put strings on whatever projects, meaning that, let's say this developer wants to develop this piece of land, they want help from the URA for utilities. The URA says, well, we've got a major issue with multifamily. So we will lend you the money if you do multifamily, or if you do affordable housing, or if you, create something that is a benefit to our URA and to the surrounding city. Then what we do is we reimburse over time. So we're not writing a check. I think this URA is very used to having agreements and cost sharing. And sometimes we'll reimburse the city, sometimes we're reimbursing a developer. In this case, or this scenario, you would be reimbursing, but you reimburse over time. If we reset a revenue allocation area, you don't have the cash, right? And so you you figure out your increment through these eligibility studies, and then you reimburse a developer over time. And maybe that's, $10,000 a year. It's all dependent on that revenue allocation area.
How often have we done that? Because my understanding is most of the contractors and developers foot that bill themselves.
Well, I think one of the examples would be the road for Nez Perce Grade Extension.
Mm-hmm.
That would be an example of working with a developer to do that. Anyway, so that is the conversation. I don't know, Thad, if you have anything to add to what I stepped through here.
No, Shannon, you handled it really well. That hit all the points that I was aware of, or that I recall from the meeting as well.
Okay. So, Stan, for any questions or?
Yeah. So the way I understood this is we would be creating an RAA specifically to do a partnership with the developer. And I'm wondering, does that, it's almost like you're, showing favoritism. Would we have to do that for every developer that might have a similar property? Would we be showing favoritism?
I don't think so. I think it's one of those things where if a developer approaches the URA and has a project that meets the URA's goals, then that's your picking and choosing. It's not setting a precedent. It's saying we are looking at this particular project and we are saying, yes, we believe that this is a benefit to us, a benefit to the city. It will, check these boxes. And so we are interested in moving forward with this. This URA hasn't done this type of thing before, but this type of project is very common in other URAs in the state. So I don't believe that it would show that, because you're taking them case by case and saying, yes, this one met, no, this one does not. I mean, I think anybody could suggest that the URA is playing favoritism, but you can't help who you're approached by, and so you take them case by case basis.
That's reasons here. That is reasons.
Oh, sorry, Thad, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Just to add to that, I think what we talked about on in our conference with the other attorney is that it would benefit, there'd be benefit to the area beyond just this particular developer. So it wouldn't just benefit one private party. I think that would be a part of it as well. That would help justify it.
Yeah, I can see if you develop that area, especially if you put some green space in it too, that the properties around it, instead of having an empty,
Right.
empty raw property,
Sure.
they would actually go up in value too. So I definitely see that.
Yeah, and I think, with this particular case as well, we're not talking just one developer. There were several lots to the north that were owned by other developers, Habitat for Humanity, that could benefit from this as well. It would do infill, whatever goals you're trying to meet, does this potential project meet those goals? I will say that one of the things that Megan pointed out to us was that this is instead of Brownsfield, this is Greensfield, meaning that you don't have, like the Twin City Foods property where there's known issues and it's a Brownsfield. This one is just simply a piece of property that's open. Housing in it of itself is a difficult reason to create a revenue allocation area. And so you would need to show other benefits besides that. And maybe that's the water, increasing the water size. Maybe it's continuing the road network, because once you build out the road network's in there. And so you're not just saying single family dwellings is what we're going to do here. You're looking at different aspects of it as well.
How long does it take to perform an eligibility study? Do you know how long?
I don't know. I would say, I don't know, but I would say 6 months or less. Would be my guess, just based on other studies.
So if we did the study and we didn't like the findings.
You don't create the revenue allocation area. Yeah.
As I recall from a month ago, the major infrastructure we would be involved with would be roads and water. Is that right?
That's my understanding.
And we don't have any idea of the cost.
Not at this time. No, what the city suggested was that to do some sort of preliminary engineering to find out what the needs were, because we were in the middle of two water areas, I guess. Luke can help me out. Yeah. And so you're between a high pressure zone and a low pressure zone, and which one would best serve development in this area? And the city does not know the answer to that right now. And so when I spoke with the city, it was, hey, we'd be willing to partner with you on this because we're really interested in this area as well. This is kind of one of the holdouts of the system as a whole in the city of Lewiston.
So a question that I have is, if you do the eligibility study, let's say, and you finished it and you decide the program's not viable and you're not creating the RAA, how do we fund that? Like, how's that paid for?
Yeah, good question. So once, let's say you borrowed it from another revenue allocation area and you decided there was additional funds that could be done there, then you don't end up stepping through the process to create a new revenue allocation area and thereby getting increment? And the answer is I don't know. I don't think you do, but I will ask Megan that because that is a good question.
Because I'm like, how would you pay it back if you got that far?
Yeah, Thad, we didn't get that far with those questions. Do you remember that one?
We didn't. I don't remember exactly how, if we discussed that or exactly how that would be repaid.
So I think your safer bet then is to have the developer front it. If the developer wants this, they front it. And then it can be part of your reimbursement agreement later. But you're also saying, we don't know if this is gonna fly,
Yeah.
especially because this is single-family dwellings.
So if we got to the point where we did the feasible study or the eligibility study, we didn't like the findings, and they would have to eat the cost for that.
They would.
That would be part of the agreement. I would feel more comfortable with that.
Yeah.
So if you closed it down and then reopened allocated area that includes this, how long would that take?
So I'm not sure, it typically takes, well, we were gonna put this to March, so I think we figured that it would take about 3 or 4 months to close down a revenue allocation area. To start a new one, my understanding is that's about 9 to 12 months to create a new revenue allocation area and step through all of those things.
And who does all that, or the city does that?
Yeah. Katie and I do all that.
So there's no problem there.
Absolutely not. Now, keep in mind, this is a developer, we may be getting more of these over time.
Yeah.
A developer has approached you about something. You as a board decide, is this something we want to pursue or not? Do I need more information to make a decision? Staff is saying, we were presented with this, we're giving you the information. We are not saying, yes, we think you should do this, or no, we don't think you should do this. We are stepping through the legalities of it and the process of it. So you're always welcome to say, we are not interested in this project. We don't think it fits with the URA's mission and goals. We think it's a great project. We just don't think it's great for us. And so you could land on that as well.
So, I think that we could look at this, estimate costs for doing the improvements so that the land can be developed. Then the land is developed, and that additional development creates tax revenue because it's going to increase property values, right?
Estimated $100,000 is what I saw somewhere. Increase.
Is that it? Only $100,000 of increase?
That's what
We said,
was written somewhere.
yeah, so what they presented last month, the developer, was that he's currently paying $3,000 in taxes. And based on the number of lots that he had proposed in that subdivision, not including like the other lots that Shannon and I had discussed, but just talking about.
Oh, $100,000 extra revenue.
Tax
is what it
revenue.
is. Okay,
Yes.
tax
Tax
revenue.
revenue.
I was thinking property. Yeah,
No, not
okay.
property value,
Gotcha.
just tax
So,
revenue.
what I'm kind of curious about is if we can make that value judgment and we can say, hey, this does meet our goals because we want to increase the property value and get revenue that's greater than if we didn't, have this URA and invest this money. Why wouldn't the city want to go after those dollars also? I know that, we add county dollars and port dollars and school district dollars to it, but where's the dividing line that says, okay, well, this is a city project and this is a project that is ideal for the URA? And I go back to the definition of blight, and it seems that blight is not part of just a undeveloped property. And then if it is, it does capture that revenue, which makes us, feel good about our investment and our control over that money. Why wouldn't the city be interested in pursuing the same thing and let us handle the blight and they handle the kind of new development?
Money.
Yeah, I think the city, okay, so let's take the example of the 2,100 foot water line that's in the existing plan. The city isn't saying that they're not interested in helping it with it or that it is a city line. The city's just saying, that's not a priority for us right now. And so it's way down on the list. And so if the URA wants it, they can be both at the same time. It can be a URA project and it can be a city project, but the city's just not ready for it. It's not a priority for them right now. And so it becomes a URA project.
My interest was piqued a month ago in terms of development that's within the city as opposed to, filling in an area rather than going out and expanding the boundaries. A a point of curiosity, is that area zoned to allow multifamily?
No.
It can do duplexes, but it can't go beyond that without rezoning or conditional use permits.
So that complicates a little bit.
That would say that the property as it stands is only fit for duplexes or single-family dwellings.
It might fit in terms of blight, that area, undeveloped. I don't know.
I mean, the developer's coming and saying, you know, this doesn't pencil out because the water, we're not starting at 0 with the water. We're starting at a negative because these lines will have to be more developed in order for us to get the water pressure that we need to do this development. And so that's why a developer would come to the URA or come to the city and say, either city, when are you planning on doing this? Or, hey, this is in an urban renewal area. Maybe it's something that they would be able to participate in. And the URA has done those types of projects before. And so that's where they're coming from.
And the developer has already, the developer has already provided sewage lines and stormwater.
Yeah.
Up there. So water really is the next step.
At first blush, it would seem that it's easier to keep if this project meets what we want. It seems like it would be easier to keep the RAA open and annex that rather than close it all down and start a new RAA. What am I missing?
If you were going to close the revenue allocation area anyway, because we put that to March, then you'd be better off just closing it out. Otherwise, you're doing kind of duplicative work. We de-annex this thing and then we close the revenue allocation area. I think it's, you know, maybe this is the catalyst to have that March conversation sooner. Do we think we should keep the East Main revenue allocation area open? What has changed? If nothing has changed, do we still want to keep this open? Decide that's where you're at, and then go from there, is what I would suggest. And so
I'm not sure if that answers Butch's question. I think what I interpret your question as is why can't we just annex that as the RAA? You know, just change the RAA boundary.
It's in the RAA.
It isn't in?
Yeah, it's in the RAA. It is not identified in the plan as a project, and that's the problem.
And the plan cannot be modified.
And the plan cannot be
I
modified.
thought I heard you say that half of it was in the RAA.
No, all of it is.
All of it is, okay.
Okay, well that helps. How would we change the plan? Is that an option?
No.
That's not an option.
By statute, if you change the plan, you have to re-index, so.
Which is why we'd have to drop that section out of the RAA or just close the RAA and start a new one.
Yes, you would have to de-annex this piece and whatever surrounding pieces you wanted and create a new revenue allocation area. You can do that and also keep the rest of East Main open, but I think we were gonna have this conversation in 2 months anyway about should we keep East Main open for the remaining projects, and now we know there's no amending this plan. Do we keep it open for these projects or do we not?
And the only thing left on that plan was the water sewer line and a pedestrian route.
Yeah.
That was identified.
Yep.
Well, I would rather do it in March so that I have time to
Sure.
review the plan.
Yeah, there's no hurry on this. We were coming back to you for information. We put possible action item. You don't have to make a decision today. You could have more questions that come up, and we can just simply put it on as the next agenda item as continued discussion.
Did anybody go up and look at that area, by the way?
I've seen it.
Yeah, I think I've seen it too.
Yeah,
I went up there and It needs to be developed, I think.
Yeah, it's attractive
Whether we
for
do it.
development.
Yeah.
A question for Jim, because he's the expert here with years in planning and zoning. Does that appear to be an area suitable for multifamily?
Just depending on the size of the lot.
Do you want me to answer that question?
Certainly.
Yes, that particular area is, those lots are all substandard. They don't actually meet the R2 zoning standard. Most of them are 6250, minimum 7500. So it could possibly be either rezoned to like an R3, which is the medium density residential, which has a minimum lot size of 6,000, or you could do a conditional use permit to allow for multifamily. And do a portion of the lot rather than splitting it into individual lots. A portion of the lot would stay in a larger lot and would allow for an apartment complex of some sort. There's a couple different ways to.
I wonder what
to skin that
residents
cat.
of that area would feel about with increased traffic and all that.
I mean, I think any way you go, you're gonna have increased traffic. I think a lot of it's just gonna depend on the plan. You know, are you gonna have a road that goes all the way through? How's your connections going to happen? There's a couple sections that are undeveloped roadway already. So it would kind of depend on the improvements that are gonna happen with development.
There you have it.
Well, I mean, don't misinterpret any of these questions that I have, but, because, you know, the fact that we've already got the sewer in there, that we need more housing, the fact that we get more property value and more revenue in that might give some of the other people relief on their property taxes, that's all good stuff. So, you know, I wouldn't be opposed to looking at closing it down and then this partnership. It seems kind of a waste to, you know, have that developer put the sewer stuff in and then it just stall out. So I'd really like to know how it fits in with the city's priorities. And if we do have to have the city, you know, re-annex it so that we put multifamily housing in there, is that a problem with their priorities? Or do they make it a priority because now they've got this extra money coming, you know, that kind of thing?
I think the question also is the developer willing to put in multifamily? You know, their proposal is for single-family dwellings. And so it might be one of those things that, hey, the URA is somewhat interested. Single-family dwellings aren't gonna fly for our purposes. Would you be willing to do multifamily? And if they say no, then you know your answer. If they say yes, we'd be willing to look at that, then we step through either a zone change, conditional use permits, those types of things. Then they pass, you know, you just have to kind of step through all of these things.
Right.
But if the developer isn't even willing to do that, then it's like, okay, we're done.
Now, did the developer put all that that work into the sewer and everything, expecting the city to put the water in? Was there an agreement or anything?
No.
They were just,
No, they developed the lots, so if you look at this box, they developed the lots on the east side of that piece of, west side of that piece of property. And so they put in the sewer line, and I think, you know, time just went on, and then costs started rising, and they decided, oh, this is not gonna work.
they were
For the
gonna do
rest
the
of
water and the rest of it too, yeah.
I think they also built all those houses like in 07, 08, so right before the market crash.
Mhm. Okay.
Well, I'm in error thinking that it was going to be mixed with single family and multifamily.
Currently, they are proposing single-family dwellings.
I did the exercise of just going through the lot sizes and identifying which of those lots met the single family dwelling standards and which could fit a duplex based on the current zoning standards. So that information came from me. But that's not necessarily what they're proposing. I think they're just proposing single family, but I showed that you could do more than that on some of those lots.
So if this project is something that we're interested in, but it's also a project that the city might be interested in, it's just a low priority, is it worth considering asking them to help pay for the eligibility study to see if it's something that could be split costs, or ask them to help offset that cost? That way, if we get through that process and we find that it's not beneficial to us, if the contractor won't front it, then at least we can at least know if it's a viable project at that point. And just a thought. They might be not willing to do the whole project, the city, but maybe they can at least chip in on the eligibility study until we find out if it's worth pursuing for us. I don't know.
Yeah, you can always ask.
So I guess for now, we just table until.
Or is there a way that our friend Thad up there can look at comparable projects and he gives us an opinion on eligibility that might be cheaper than having some third party?
I mean, this URA has never actually done an eligibility study. It is not required to do, it's the safe route to do it.
Right.
And especially with something like this one, where it's not a brownfield, it's not an obvious URA project. I think that's why Megan was suggesting I would step through an eligibility study, because it will find out all of those kind of reasons for, if you will. And it also does, to my understanding, it also does the financial forecast piece of it. And so when you're looking at, and my guess is it would say, and these are the properties that should be in this revenue allocation area. This is what we would suggest you include. I've never been through one before, but this is my understanding of how they are.
I'd be really interested in the financial analysis, the forecast.
I believe that Megan said that Idaho Falls has done eligibility studies, and maybe I could get my hands on one of those just to see how they stepped through, or find a similar project that another URA has done and see what that eligibility study looked like. I think what they do is that they then fold those eligibility studies into the plans.
Right,
That's my understanding.
Yeah, well, personally, like I said, I've asked a lot of questions, but I would feel more comfortable doing a new RAA with a new plan that is specifically this than having these RAs with project plans that are like a hodgepodge of a whole bunch of different projects. To me, the more specific and the better financial forecast we have, the more I'll be in favor of it. Let me say that.
I think, from my understanding, it's this type of project that's more common than what we see in Lewiston.
Yeah, that makes sense. So.
Yeah.
Now, do we want to approach the developer and see if he's willing to foot the cost for an eligibility study?
Why don't I mean, we can, but the other thing I can do is do some research and get some other examples of what that looks like. And then we will have a better idea of, yes, we do want to pursue having a third party do that, or yeah, we could probably throw something together ourselves, or what, but maybe that's the route to go, since we're all kind of not really fully knowing what that looks like.
Yeah,
I don't know, it's up to you.
I'm actually feeling pretty positive about the study. It'd take work off of you. I know you guys are hugely busy. And it would give kind of somebody outside looking in, give us a sanity check.
We'd probably do a little bit of research anyway, because we would want to land on a scope of what we're asking them to do.
Sure.
You know?
Right.
And so I don't know that I fully understand what that scope looks like right now.
Now, if you do talk to the developer, it might be interesting to find out whether they're okay with multifamily stuff.
Yeah, if they say, no, they're not on. I thought they might cut on. If they say absolutely not, we are stuck with single family dwellings, then I think we know our answer then.
Well, my interest is the multifamily potential. And correct me if I'm wrong, but on the RAA as it exists today, we don't have any projects in mind with traction.
No. No, we looked at where we left off was we looked at the water line from Lackway Road to the city limits line. The board asked me to reach out to possible partners, and nobody was coming to the table to partner up on it. And the city, although they recognize that it is a line that needs to be replaced, it's just not on the top of their priority list.
That's what I remember too.
Yeah. And then the pedestrian path, the plan was very much dependent on getting FLAP grant, Federal Lands Access Program grant. That grant was not awarded for that piece of property. And you have the extra kind of bonus of working with the Corps of Engineers plus the railroad to achieve that project, which would probably go beyond the term of of the plan. Just with other things that we've had to do with Corps and railroad. So it did not look viable, if you will, to pursue the pedestrian path.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm interested in the eligibility study, but I just have concerns of how we pay for it. So I would wanna know more information if the city wanted to partner, or
Okay.
how, if we had to pay that, like how we would pay it back if we got to the end of that study and decided that it was a project we didn't wanna pursue, how we would pay that back, and what that looks like. That'd be my concern.
I'll ask other URAs, like how do they go about that? What's kind of common practice for these? Are they simply all developer driven, or how are they kind of coming about with them?
All right, so I guess we'll table that till the next meeting.
Sure.
And then follow up with on those answers, So we'll move on the agenda and move on to downtown RAA number 7 and get an update.
Yeah, the update is I have no update.
Okay, no update.
No update.
All right. So moving on to, sorry.
Just one more question.
Sure.
Do you have any idea of like how long it will be before the update? Like
No.
Another month, 2 months?
No.
Okay.
Are negotiations ongoing even? Do we know that?
That's what I'm wondering.
Negotiations are ongoing, but I don't have any update for you.
Okay, gotcha.
All right, so moving down to East Orchard Sewer number 5 update.
All right, that's me. Okay, so we did receive amendment number 1 and amendment number 2. So 1 was doing the completed design for segment 7, and then number 2 was doing that rock boring study for all remaining segments. Shannon and I met with Joe Kosman from Public Works. Had a few minor changes to go back to Mountain Water Works, and we're expecting to get those back in time for the board to review and vote on in February. That's where we're at with that.
Any questions? All right, then I guess we'll move on to board member comments. Anybody have anything in?
Yes, I was going to put the East Orchard Sewer District in the graph, the plan, and I still want to do that. So Katie, I'm going to try to get with you next week.
Okay.
The holidays, I got sick over the holidays, and it just was too much for me to get in here. So I will get that for everybody. I haven't forgotten about it, and that's it for me.
Anybody else have anything for the good of the group? No? All right. With no, any staff comments?
Yeah, I was wondering if you could. So we have gone through the paperwork to get our eligibility with the state pool, investment pool. And so we will be doing the transfer soon. And so on the January, hopefully by the February meeting, the January financials will be showing money transferred to that state insurance pool.
Good.
That's awesome. Thank you for doing that. Anything else?
So we brought up in February that the city is putting on a volunteer appreciation reception. I believe I handed out everybody a flyer. It's February 2nd from 6 to 7:30 at the Lewiston Library. And I'm trying to get an approximate head count for legal. So if you think you're gonna go, you don't have to tell me right now, but I'll probably send a follow-up email in the next week so that I can get that information over to them.
And it's open house style, so you don't have to.
Yeah, I'll probably go.
I would like to go.
I'm pretty sure I'll go.
What did you say the time was?
6 to 7:30.
Is there food there?
My understanding is there's gonna be
Yes.
food.
That's
part
Which is
of the-
why I need to do
Yeah.
that.
Ribs?
Sounds good.
Ribs? I have no idea. I'm not in charge of that.
I'll be there.
Kate, I would be a no if I'm at McCall as Tim and I were talking about skiing.
You're gonna be skiing. Okey doke.
I'm gonna be in town that weekend, so I will go on that Friday.
Great.
All right,
Jim?
Sure.
Jim's a yes.
Okay. There you go. That's all I have.
thank you. All right, any other staff comments, nothing else? All right, with that, I'll accept a motion to adjourn the meeting.
All motion?
Second?
Second?
All right, motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, meeting adjourned.